Today we're reviewing something that's surprisingly rare, and the only way I can describe it is that it's a mega spec car. This is a Mercedes GLE43 AMG, which is already rare, but the one we have here has almost every single possible option ticked. So let's have a look round, shall we? My name's Tom, and you're watching Paragon Cars. Let's go. Before we tour the inside, let's have a look at that engine. It's a twin-turbo V6 putting out 362 horsepower and a respectable 520 Nm of torque. It's connected to a snappy 9-speed G-tronic multi-clutch gearbox, so let's see how it manages on the 30 to 70 sprint. So, we manage a time of 5.34 seconds. Certainly not the fastest car in the world, but it's what I'd call a satisfying amount of pace. That puts it right around a Mark III Ford Focus RS, and just behind a BMW X640i, even though this GLE actually has more power. The B58 in that X6 really is something else. The interior of this GLE might look a tad dated, but it's got everything you'd ever want, from massaging seats to cooled or heated cup holders. It really is tech heaven in here. The main thing for me though is the DESIGNO package. It's a very rare option, mainly because it's expensive, but my god is it worth it. You get fine Napa leather almost everywhere in the interior, and let me tell you, it is a big step up over the standard stuff. It also includes a Alcantara headliner, which is something you usually only see on Bentleys and above. Move to the rear and it's just as nice as the front. The panoramic roof lets tons of light in and means getting carsick becomes a rarity. There's plenty of room for legs and heads, plus heated seats and your own climate control. There's also an armrest with some fairly decent cup holders. Moving further back to the boot, you'll find plenty of space even with the middle row up, but fold the seats down and there's almost nothing you can't carry. Talking about folding the seats down actually, I initially thought this was the angle you were left with and was gobsmacked that Mercedes had left a design flaw like that in their cars. But no, don't worry, I was just being dumb. Once done properly, you get a dead flat load floor, and that combined with the square opening makes it very easy to get awkward items in. Plus the fact this car has the airmatic suspension system means once lowered you can carry heavy stuff with ease. Right, let's go for a drive and see what's what. Oh, it's a cooled seat and cooled cup holder kind of day today I think, and thankfully this GLE43 has both of those options. In fact, it's got quite a lot of options that we'll get into a little bit later. But first, how does it drive around town? Well, we're riding on the optional air suspension. And oh, even though this is supposed to be an AMG, it is so supple in comfort mode. You notice the bumps are there, but it just irons out all the smaller imperfections. Steering is nice and light, brake pedal is soft yet reassuring, and the throttle pedal actually has a surprising amount of weight to it. Being a 2017 car, this is before we had all those emissions regulations changes where they had to put OPFs in cars, or particulate filters. And it just means it has this really nice low-down grumble that I kind of miss from a lot of newer cars. Now I've reviewed a brand new GLE53 and the slightly smaller GLC43. I'll put links to those videos up in the top right hand corner there. But it's going to be interesting to see how this differs, because to me, at least in the way this looks, it just doesn't look that sporty, and it doesn't have the 4MATIC Plus system, so theoretically, it should just kind of be like a normal GLE with a bigger engine. I'm hoping there is a little bit of a sporty edge though. Anyway, what's it like to park? Well, a regular GLE is actually pretty difficult because A, it's a big car and the view out the back isn't amazing. But thankfully this one's got the 360-degree view camera, which means you've got cameras all around the car, funnily enough. And the turning circle is just about good enough that getting into a tight space in one go is perfectly doable. You definitely need the camera system though. One other cool thing you can do with this system is use the 180 degree view. So say you're coming out of a junction with poor visibility, or you're reversing off your driveway, you can use the front or rear camera to give you a wide angle view. And this is the bit you want to be looking at. It just makes it much easier to see any oncoming traffic. Right, let's see what this is like coming out of a junction. Start, stop. Won't turn the engine off because of the air conditioning system. Give it half throttle. 9-speed gearbox does a wonderful job of blending those gears together, and as you can see, this thing picks up speed pretty quickly even though it's a heavy car. Right, let's reset the trip computer. Ooh, top up washer fluid, must do that as well. Anyway, reset the trip computer. Yes, thank you. And see what MPG we can get on the motorway. I haven't actually seen what the official figures are yet, but I'll put them up in the top right hand corner again and we'll see if it can manage it. Using my car wisdom though, I'm expecting 32 miles per gallon, I'll say, if I was to take a wild guess. Because this car weighs 2.1 tons, and obviously it's not as aerodynamic as something like a saloon. Right, before we get on the motorway, let's have a taste of how this thing handles. So I'm going to use my drive mode selector switch down in the center console to put us into Sports Plus. This should lower the car, downshift a couple of gears, make the steering heavier, make the throttle a tad more responsive, and open up the valves. I'm going to take manual control as well. And you know what? It has a really nice noise to it. Let's turn traction off as well. See what that's like. Foot down. Do you know what? It sounds like a sports car, and those gear shifts sound wicked. How cool does that sound? And now remember, this isn't a 63, this is a 43. God, that sounds good. That was the early warning system telling me I was getting too close to that van. That sounds amazing. What? That sounds like it should be a coupe. What a weird combination, driving a massive soft SUV with a noise like that. Anyway, let's go back into comfort and see what this thing is like on the motorway. Once you've set up your assistance systems, the next thing you notice is just how quiet this cabin is. I'm not joking right now, this is literally as quiet as a brand new Mercedes S-Class in here. I don't know why or how. I mean, maybe it's the fact we're riding on slightly smaller wheels than you would get on a normal Mercedes SUV, or I mean, has it got double glazing? No, it doesn't have double glazing. It's just unbelievably quiet. There's no wind noise, no road noise. I mean, it completely isolates you from the road. Then the air suspension, oh God, it is so good. It irons out all the small and the big bumps. And it just means, I mean, it feels like you're sitting on a sofa at home. It really is that comfortable. Then seating position, it's okay. I would like to get a little bit lower, but that's only because I like driving sporty stuff and it just makes it feel a little bit sportier. Armrests are fine. I can reach either one pretty easily. And the seats themselves, oh God, they are so comfortable. Plenty of adjustability. You can adjust the pitch of the base, backrest, headrest electronically. And then the addition of this DESIGNO leather makes them even softer. And oh, it just feels like such a nice car to travel in. Then in terms of interior quality, obviously because this has the DESIGNO package, it is going to be a step above most cars, and it is. The leather quality is mental. I mean, it's like the whole interior is made out of high quality wallets. It really is extraordinary how soft this leather is. In fact, the only bit of this interior that isn't quite up to par is this piano black plastic. If I sort of show you in the GoPro, you might be able to see a couple of swell marks. Now this car is 5 years old, but when you look at the dash and how new that looks compared to this looks ancient already. And this is no fault of the previous owner, this is just what happens to piano black plastic. It ages terribly, and it just gets swirl marks from just brushing it with a microfiber cloth. It is ridiculously easy to scratch this stuff. Other than that, you have this kind of like, I don't know what it is, it's like wood almost. I don't know whether it's real or not, but that looks a lot nicer and hasn't scratched at all yet. Then in terms of how solid everything feels, glove box is nice and solid, steering still feels very tight, all the plastics in here, nothing really rattles, which is nice, and everything still works. The only other thing I think feels cheap when you're using it is this selector for the air conditioning. It just looks kind of old and weird and out of place to me. And then maybe this dial here. I don't think anyone has ever used this in a car. Anyway, what about cost options? Well, first thing I'm going to get is that Harman Kardon sound system, as the standard sound system is kind of subpar, especially when you're getting an AMG model. It adds a lot more bass, and most importantly, a lot more clarity when you do turn the volume up. Next thing is going to be that 360 camera system, because this is a big car and the visibility isn't great out the back, so it's definitely something worth having, especially if you live in a city. And then the last thing is going to be that panoramic roof, because A, it extends all the way to the back seats, and B, if you've got kids, it lets enough light in so that if they start to feel sick, they can just stare up and look at the sky for a bit. One thing I did forget to mention in terms of wear and tear, and it's probably the most obvious thing, is the steering wheel. Now this car has covered over 70,000 miles, so there is going to be a little bit of wear and tear, especially on stuff you touch all the time. But this is quite a lot. I don't know if the previous owner was very heavy-handed, but they seem to have worn quite a lot of the black finish off of the steering wheel, which is a shame. Right, that's our motorway stint over, so how did we do? Well, we're pretty much bang on 30 miles per gallon, 29.7 in fact. And that is pretty close to what I had predicted actually. I think the reason it's lower than it should be is purely because we were stuck in quite a lot of stop-start traffic. But that's a pretty good figure for a car that weighs over 2 tons and isn't that aerodynamic. And yeah, I mean, it's a V6 with loads of power, so it's not a bad figure really. I reckon on a long run, if you drove fairly slowly and it was clear, you'd probably get about 35 miles per gallon, which is not half bad at all. It's certainly a lot better than the new GLE43 coupe that we reviewed a while ago. That only managed 26 mpg, and that had the EQ boost system, so I don't think that hybrid system is aiding the fuel economy as much as it should be. Anyway, let's see if this thing handles as well as the GLE53 did, and take it on to a B-road. Right, let's see whether this GLE43 is a boat then. Back into Sports Plus, got traction in dynamic of course. See what it's like. Oh yes, it's a little bit boaty. But it's it sounds so good. Why does it sound so good? It sounds wicked. I mean, listen to that gear shift. That sounds so good. My God. And do you know what? Coming off the roundabout there was a tiny bit of rotation. It's a little bit better than an Audi SQ5. But the Mercedes GLC43 was definitely better at handling. And the GLE53 with its 4MATIC Plus system was also quite a lot better. I mean, I could get that car sideways. That thing was a bit ridiculous. Actually, let's open the sunroof a little bit, just so you can hear this thing. Sound check. What is this car? It's like best of both worlds, really. Gives you a great soundtrack, but also is very quiet on the motorway. Only thing it's missing really is a bit of dynamism from the chassis. Oh, that noise never gets old. It's like boy racer noise. Let's go around again just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, now someone's in the way. Okay, let's give it now. Come on. Do you know what? It's a very neutral chassis. Doesn't really want to go sideways, but it rotates nicely. We have got fairly pants tyres on at the minute though. So the GLE43, the newer version of this effectively, is a massive step up in the way it goes around a corner, as in you could literally slide that thing around. But, I mean, this sounds so much better. And I think for a daily driver, I'd probably rather have this actually. Or get an aftermarket exhaust for the GLE53. This thing sounds wicked. One other thing I'm missing is a manual select mode. There might be one somewhere, but I can't find it in the center console. Oh, actually, I'm being stupid. There it is. Yeah, so now we're in full manual. Well, hey. Okay, we haven't got much fuel left, so maybe only once down here. Let's see what it's like. Let's get that panoramic roof open as well. Got to listen to that engine. Do you know what? Coming down a B road, you feel high up, but the body's still very well controlled. Brakes are good, suspension is nice and stiff. But a hot hatch is definitely quicker down here by quite a long way. A hot hatch certainly doesn't sound as good as this though. The soundtrack alone is enough to put a big smile on your face. I think that says all you need to know about this thing. Well, it certainly handled as expected, but my god, what a great soundtrack. Can't believe how boy racery this refined and luxurious SUV is. It gets even better though, as when you look at the finance cost on this car, it almost seems like a bargain. Say you put £2,000 down, you could have all this for just £449 a month. And yes, I know that is still a lot of money, but when you consider what you're getting for that, it's actually not a bad deal at all. As always, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like, and why not subscribe? As not only can you see more videos like this, you can see everything we have for sale, and that includes this lovely GLE. My name's Tom, and you've been watching Paragon Cars. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.